Dr. Oz joins us, Dr. Mehmet Oz, the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. May not be the sexiest title, but it's one of the biggest and most important jobs in government. And we're also joined by his trusted chief of staff, Stephanie Carlton. Welcome to you. And Dr. Oz, first of all, gosh, you are never off duty, no matter where you are. I guess that's like the Hippocratic Oath you guys take or something along those lines.
Well, I tortured my teachers and professors for decades, so at least I should take what they've taught me and use it. And what happened in the Oval Office, you know, you have to stand in the Oval Office, obviously, with the president, and if you lock your knees with that, which that gentleman did, you quickly become hypotensive. Your blood pressure drops because all the blood goes down to your legs. Gravity takes it there. His blood sugar may have been a little low as well, and I could see him begin to teeter. And the most important lesson for everyone watching now is if someone's about to fall, don't dilly-dally. Just grab them. Like I did a bear hug, grab them. They're going to fall if you don't. And that head was going to hit the Resolute desk right in front of the president. And that's the big damage. Not that they got their blood pressure down, because you can fix that by elevating their legs and if you have to put an IV in. But if they bang their head on a table or a floor, then you get a huge bleed inside your head. You get strokes. It's bad news. So whoever it is that you're around you, if they look like they're about to fall over, especially if they're an older person, just bear hug them and bring them down gently. And by the way, Steph's a nurse, my chief of staff, so she would have done the same. Every health professional knows this. If you're not a health professional, I just taught you a life-saving tip.
Totally. That's fascinating and useful, and thank you for that. Stephanie and Dr. Oz, we know there's this massive fraud situation in Minnesota with medical funding and the rest, and Governor Walz seems to be doing a lot of deflecting. Take a look.
Do you take responsibility for failing to stop this fraud in your state?
Well, certainly I take responsibility for putting people in jail. Governors don't get to just talk theoretically. We have to solve problems. And I will note, it's not just Somalis. Minnesota is a generous state. Minnesota is a prosperous state, a well-run state. We're AAA bond rated, but that attracts criminals. Those people are going to jail. We're doing everything we can. But to demonize an entire community on the actions of a few, it's lazy.
Now, there's some deflection going on there, right? Stephanie Carlton, you are the subject matter expert. Tell us where we are and where this story is going, if you don't mind.
Look, this has been a problem in Minnesota for years. We're not seeing the kind of management that we need to stop the fraud. Latest example, Minnesota knew about a year ago, widespread fraud in a housing program targeted by the Somali ring that we know about in Minnesota. Minnesota got the results of our investigation earlier this year. They did nothing. We had to step in this summer and shut down this housing program with widespread fraud. The more we got into this, the more that we found 14 other high-risk programs that now even Governor Walz has admitted are a problem. So we've taken immediate action. We put the state of Minnesota on notice. We want weekly updates from them and how their investigation is going. We've stopped all new provider enrollments until they get a handle on this fraud, and we've suspended payments on this. Look, we've given the state now 60 days to get their act together, or we will have to take action to start stopping federal taxpayer dollars from going to this fraudulent activity in Minnesota.
And look, the FBI, and I think you've got something in the works here, Dr. Oz, are all going to come together and figure this thing out?
Well, we've been talking constantly. One thing the president demands, and he's right to insist on this, is that all the agencies work together. So several senior members of the administration are coming together on Monday. We have a press conference, both to give an update on what's happening in Minnesota, but also to talk more broadly about fraud around the country. And although the Minnesota example is one that is unforgettable and has been shocking even the people inside CMS who've seen almost every kind of fraud, we have 5 times more durable medical equipment suppliers. People sell wheelchairs and canes and the like, 5 times more of those than McDonald's in South Florida. And we think the Cuban government might be involved if the Miami mayor is correct. We've got massive fraud taking place in Southern California by Armenian gangs, both in hospice and in home health care. We had a large Russian multinational criminal organization that we busted $15 billion of effort they were making to steal money. And those folks, of course, all fled to Russia. So part of the challenge here is what do we actually do as a government to stop down foreign criminal organizations who are trying to attack Medicare and Medicaid? Our most vulnerable people are at risk.
I love it. Dr. Oz is making busts. There's nothing this guy can't do. Do me a favor, President Trump the other day regarding health insurance. Just take a quick look at this.
I want to give the people better health insurance for less money. The people will get the money, and they're going to buy the health insurance that they want.
I just like that sentiment a lot. Can that happen? And if you don't mind, there's always going to be fraud. What is your budget? Over $1 trillion or something like that, Stephanie Carlton? I mean, there's always going to be a little bit of fraud, I guess.
Yeah, we've actually got about a $1.7 trillion budget. It's the largest in the whole federal government. And yeah, fraud is a huge problem. And that is the number one reason we've seen President Trump task Dr. Oz and I to go after it and tackle it. Minnesota is just one recent example. The other actually we saw in Obamacare. We came in and we found out that almost 20% of enrollees in Obamacare weren't actually supposed to be on the program. Many of them didn't know they were enrolled in the program until the IRS sent them a bill at the following year. It's got to stop.
And can these be permanent fixes? It seems like, look, President Trump, you guys aren't going to be there forever. We know there's turnover. Can these be permanent fixes, Dr. Oz? And are you meeting resistance? The HHS and the rest of it, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, there are good people there, but there are some bureaucrats, and they're very resistant to change sometimes.
It's hard to stop President Trump and Secretary Kennedy when they put their mind to something. There are fixes. Our biggest enemy is nihilism, Greg. And I'll tell you something. Look at Medicare. It's a good example. 60-year-old program working beautifully. It's a crown jewel of our healthcare system. Seniors know when they get it, they're going to be in good shape. We can do all kinds of things to make it even better, but it's fundamentally a sound program. We've got to do the same thing to Medicaid, which the states run, even though they charge the federal taxpayer the bill, and we definitely have to do it for the ACA, because Obamacare is not really the Affordable Care Act, it's the Unaffordable Care Act.
Wow. So Dr. Oz is the administrator, and the chief of staff is Stephanie Carlton, a nurse. That's pretty cool. Can you tell us what kind of nurse and how you guys linked up, Stephanie?
Yeah. So I started my career off as a labor and delivery nurse at Georgetown here in Washington, D.C. About a year ago, Dr. Oz called me. President Trump had just nominated him to run CMS. I think doctors and nurses work pretty well together. And so Dr. Oz said, hey, why don't you come tackle this challenge with me? It has been a nonstop year. We work around the clock to make sure we're delivering on our mission.
Well, good luck. We know it's a tough, tough job, but I'm so glad you guys are there and a great team, Dr. Oz and Stephanie Carlton. Say hello to all the people at the Centers for Medical and Medicaid Services. There are a lot of them. And real quick, Dr. Oz, we've heard that you're giving internally some of the tips you gave us earlier, grabbing the guy if he faints. You're sharing a lot of medical advice internally. That's a great thing. I guess you do that wherever you go.
Well, it's very fulfilling, but I'll tell you, this is the best job I've ever had, because you get to work with superstars who left the private sector, many of them well-paying jobs. They come into government to make a difference. The most important thing they want is to be able to do what they desire, which is make America a better place and take care of our most vulnerable citizens. And we're doing just that. And God bless you for shedding some light on the opportunities to make it even better.
Thank you, Dr. Oz.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.